Hey everybody, we made it to Friday again. So today I wanted to share a definition with you of a concept and bring it to the forefront of your awareness. So it might be something you've heard of before, might be something you're already totally aware of, but I want to kind of bring it to the foreground again because I think it's really relevant in these times that we're living in. And the idea, the term is confirmation bias. And I found a definition that I think sums it up pretty well. And it says, confirmation bias is seeking and interpreting information that confirms pre-existing beliefs. It affects your decisions and how you see the world around you. Your brain sees challenges to your beliefs as a threat. And maybe you can notice places where that's true in your life. To protect yourself, the brain sticks to beliefs you already identify with. So just take a second and think about, maybe after this video, and think about how that is true in your life. And think about the places where, confirmation, it's not coronavirus, I promise, where confirmation bias shows up for you. And that can show up in politics. It can show up in, how you see this pandemic and the decisions that our political leaders and governments are making. It can show up. One interesting place that I've noticed that it shows up a lot is it's a tool often that shame uses. So if I have this belief that I am a really bad employee, I believe that I don't pull my weight around here. I'm not doing good. I'm not doing well. I'm going to look around at all the ways where I'm going to find proof of that wherever I look, right? If I believe I'm a bad parent, I'm going to see all my failures in a spotlight, right? But the truth is that there's always both things happening at the same time. So, I won't get into politics, but I'll use Trump as an example, where if you are a pro-Trump person, then you are going to find information that is pro-Trump, that is positive, that shines a positive light on him, right? And you're going to see anything that is contrary to that as a threat, right? That it's false, that it's wrong. And vice versa. If you're anti-Trump, you're going to find all the anti-Trump information. That's what you're going to be drawn to. That's what you're going to believe. And anything pro is going to feel like a threat and false and lies, right? And I think most of us, like that, we can really feel it in that context because most of us have a strong opinion one way or the other. Not everybody, but a lot of us. And the truth is that even in this extreme, where we're probably very on one side or the other, there is truth still on both sides. And I know for a lot of us, that's hard to swallow, but it's true. There's truth on both sides. I might have a lot of areas I can improve as a parent, but if I'm only willing to look at, if I'm just running, my mind is running on default mode, and I'm only seeing my failures, then I miss all the good that I'm doing. And I think when we focus on, so I'll talk about it in two contexts. One is a tool that shame uses, and two, as a tool, as a way that we see the world, right? So if I'm not paying attention to my confirmation bias in how I see the world, right? How I see politics and issues and the sides that I take, if I'm only willing to look at my side, my pre-existing beliefs, and I'm not willing to acknowledge my confirmation bias and to take a step back and to see both sides, then what I'm doing is how can I say this delicately? I'm becoming part of the problem, right? I'm part of the reason why our societies and our communities are so polarized, right? That doesn't mean I have to agree with the other side, right? But I think it's something that we can, when we step back from our confirmation bias, we can become more empathetic. We can look and we can see why somebody would believe this other way than we do, right? When we're acknowledging that, oh, my brain is trying to make this a threat, and it isn't, right? And then when it's a shame tool, when it's a way that we can sort of beat ourselves up, when we can take a step back and when we can look at the confirmation bias and we can see that maybe not everything is bad, and we can start actively, it has to be active. We have to actively look for the good, right? Because our brain, the neural pathways, our brains are conditioned, right? We're not doing this consciously. This is a subconscious action. So when we can become conscious about it and we can be looking for the positive also that I'm doing or seeing in the world or contributing, right? Whether it's in my family or in my job or in my community or whatever, then when you start to recognize the good, that is the fuel for more good, if that makes sense. If you're always focused on the negative, we think that if we focus on the negative and if we beat ourselves up, that will somehow inspire us to become better, that, cracking the whip and like really beating ourselves up is what we need to move forward. And I have found over and over and over again, friends, family, myself, my clients, that is so not true. When we can focus on the positive, when we can focus on the things we're doing right, when we can give ourselves a break when we're doing something wrong, when we can be kind to ourselves, that creates the space for us to move forward and to become better. So I don't know if that made sense to you, but it's really been on my mind lately, especially just in the context of this pandemic and in some of the conversations that I've had recently. It's just, I see it all over the place and in myself where I'm like, why am I so triggered by this? Why? And it's because my brain sees it as a threat to the beliefs I already have. And again, that doesn't mean I have to go and now believe the opposite. It just means I need to be curious. It just means that I need to open my mind a little bit and to be curious and to see the other side. And I've had, in the last little while, I've had a friend who thinks very differently than I do and sees some issues very different, very, very different than I do. And we've had some really interesting conversations where the core of what we see and what we think is the same, like the ideal is the same, and he thinks from this way and I think from this way, right? And I still don't agree with his, I haven't let go of my own belief system to adopt his, but it's made me a much more compassionate person because it totally makes sense to me why he sees the way he does, right? Why he has the feelings that he has and where he's coming from. And I may not agree with it, but now I have this much more wide open, grounded belief or foundation, if that makes sense. And I'm a more compassionate, more empathetic person because I'm willing to acknowledge that this is my bias and I need to give some time to this other way, to this other side. So anyway, that was a lot of talking. So I'm going to leave you with that and hope you have a fantastic weekend and a great Memorial Day. And I will see you at Tuesday at 1:30.